Hi, welcome back to Cole's book review channel. Sorry I haven't posted in a while. Today I'm going a bit off track because this is actually an assignment. It counts as a summative for my grade, and it's kind of like a review. It's mostly kind of like a mini summary though, so let's get into it. First off, the book is called When You Reach Me. It was made by Stead, and here are some of the main points I would like to talk about. So, first off, we have like the kind of background information. The main character's name is Miranda. She lives in New York with her best friend Sal and her mother. They don't have a lot of money, so they live in an apartment that they share with a lot of people. And her mother is aiming to win a TV show that actually used to exist, I think, in real life, called the $20,000 Pyramid. And we'll get more on that later. In addition to her friend Sal, she also meets Marcus. Marcus, I think, has autism because he's really smart, but he has a hard time connecting with people and trouble understanding things. In one of the first conversations between Marcus and Miranda, they were actually talking about time travel. There's a very well-known book that Miranda was reading. I bet you've heard of it, A Wrinkle in Time. So they talk about time travel a lot. And that leads up to something later. The main conflict it goes something along the lines of this. Miranda and Sal, her best friend, are walking home from their school. They have a crazy man that lives on their corner. And they were walking near the crazy man when suddenly a kid comes up and punches Sal for what seems like no reason at all. And so then when they get home, Sal shuts Miranda out of his life completely. He won't talk to her. She doesn't understand why. So and then one day she finds her door unlocked and their spare key was stolen from them. And then she finds this note that says something like this: "I'm coming to save your friend's life and my own. But first, I must ask you two favors. One, you must write me a story. You cannot begin now, as most of it has not taken place yet. And even afterward, there is no hurry. But do not wait so long that your memory fades. The trip is a difficult one, and I require as much detail as possible while my mind is sound." And it just says M. There's no signature, just M. She finds it in a school library book that she hadn't, that it was one of her first days taking it home. So the main conflict is basically her trying to become friends with Sal again and trying to figure out who sent these mysterious notes. Another crazy thing about these notes is that they seem to predict the future. At one point it says, in one of the notes, it says, "You will want proof." And so it lists a bunch of locations where there will be things that you couldn't possibly know about because it hadn't happened yet. It seems impossible. Mini conflicts that come along the way. Like Julia. Julia is this kid who goes on expensive trips with her parents, just randomly. And so she learns about things the others wouldn't know about, so she sounds really snobby and perfect and unreasonable to them. She complained about during a self-portrait making that there wasn't a certain shade of brown for her skin and a certain shade of brown for her eyes. So I think that the reason why Miranda doesn't like Julia and Julia doesn't really like Miranda is that there's kind of a difference money-wise. Julia has a lot of money while Miranda doesn't really have any money. And so they can't really understand each other. So yeah, And then, speaking of money, her mother is practicing to win the $20,000 pyramid. Now, back then, $20,000 would have been a ton of money. She's practicing every night, and so it kind of goes back and forth between past and present. And the thing is, it's not until one of the near the end of the book that you find that she got the postcard inviting her there.
Time for the spoilers.
Hooray! Sal is walking past the laughing man, who is the crazy guy on our corner. And so he's walking when suddenly Marcus comes and is coming after Sal. Sal thought that he was going to punch him again, but really he was going to apologize. So Sal ran until he crossed out into the street. He wasn't paying attention, and there was a truck driving toward him. And the truck driver was not checking where he was going. In a split second, before Sal would have been hit by the truck, the laughing man came and kicked Sal out of the way. And then the truck hit the laughing man. So Sal lived, and he explained to Miranda that he didn't want to not be friends with her, it's just that he needed other friends. It was kind of like they didn't have any other friends at all, and he wanted to change that. Miranda kind of had a moment where she understood a lot of things. M stands for Marcus. And so the laughing man was always repeating this chant: book, bag, pocket, shoe. And so what that meant was, here were where some of the notes were hidden. The first note was hidden in the library book. The second one was hidden in a bag full of bread. The third one was in Miranda's coat pocket. And the fourth one was actually in one of the laughing man's shoes, which when he kicked, Sal flew off and fell next to Miranda. So Miranda discovers that the laughing man is actually Marcus. In a different timeline, he's old, and so he came back to try to fix things with Miranda and Sal. Miranda realizes that the reason Marcus is doing all of this is to make up for Sal dying. He would have felt really, really guilty if Sal had died, knowing that he had taken a part in causing that, and so he wanted to make things right. And he sacrificed his sanity, his grip on reality, and his life to do so. So she writes the letter explaining the story of that, and she's going to give it to Marcus one day. And so she she feels sad that there's no real happy ending for Marcus. And she hopes that Marcus will understand that. And so now their family has a pretty good amount of money. She has a lot of other friends. Everything's pretty much coming to a close. And so that, my friends, is When You Reach Me. Roll the credits.